In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
Maintaining world domination is based on an intellectually and financially bankrupt idea that generates dependency, war, loss of civil liberties, inflation, and debt, all of which contribute to our economic crisis.
Would you support if we as a whole world just came together under one government?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why not?
A new world order type of idea being under, global government. Is that something you'd be in favor of?
Yeah, definitely, with Canada being such a multicultural country.
Yeah, why not just expand it to the new world order, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media, and of course we are joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. We are going to go into something that is very prevalent. It's on our doorstep, if not in our houses already, and that is globalism. And now, I know what a lot of you guys will say. Globalism covers many bases, and that's absolutely true. We are going to go into the most prevalent examples of how globalism is affecting us today, and we've got so many examples, so we're going to cut it short to like the top, 30, 40 reasons? I mean, we're just going to go at it and see what we can bring to you right now, because there are so many issues affecting us right now around the world on a global scale. As a globalist, try and enslave us and basically drive us against each other, create chaos, divide, and then they conquer. That goes for the monetary system, that goes for the regulatory system, that goes for the taxation system, that goes for how they will drive us against each other. So to start it all off, I mean, we've been going into this so much, and of course we see what's happening within the U.S. presidential elections, and we've seen how people like Hillary Clinton, who is a staunch globalist, has been pushing her agenda, which isn't really her agenda. It's people like George Soros' agenda. It's people like the Rothschilds' agenda. It's people like her favorite little boyfriend, Henry Kissinger's agenda. And, I mean, we got to remember going back to the 2008 election. Henry Kissinger said it himself, and they don't hide this. It's right out in the open. They just think we're too stupid. What he said was,
I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
Now, this goes from both sides of the spectrum. George H.W. Bush was a complete globalist. Mm-hmm. Obama's a complete globalist. Bush Jr. is a complete globalist. McCain in the elections. John Kerry. We could go on and on and on. Romney is a total globalist. And this is a problem because instead of us going back and forth between Republican and Democrat, perhaps we should look at the root of the problem. You cannot destroy the problem if you don't know where the roots are. You can cut off a branch, but those roots are still digging deep and that tree will still grow. So John, you have some great examples right here, so can you go into that?
Well, the great examples is basically the United Nations and what they've created for agencies. It just amazes me. I haven't really looked crazy into the United Nations. I know people like Deirdre Griffin actually wrote The Fearful Master and great books about the UN that you definitely should read.
Going back to 1962, and it's still correct today.
And he knew because he understood history and how governments and every institution that they build actually end up being totalitarianism, like full collectivism, and going from that individualism that it starts at. And, it just corrupts everything now.
And before you get into the examples there, John, a great point to start off this talk about the United Nations, which started as a League of Nations back in the 1910s under the Rothschilds and the big bankers of the world. The whole idea was break bread, create peace and prosperity among countries. But look what's happened since the United Nations was formed. nothing but all-out war and chaos, divide, monetary destruction, debt and devaluation, inflation and control.
Well, I think that is for a reason, Josh. They're just doing this so they can implement their faulty, gigantic government. They want to destroy our monetary system. They want to destroy our political system, our governments. They want to destroy everything that we have. So it looks like we need something at a bigger scale, somebody to really save us and come there as a savior. Now, the United Nations has, been around, as you said, for forever, since the 40s. And actually, the first guy that was the head of the United Nations came from my home country, Norway. We have a lot of globalists that are, currently we have the NATO head. We also have the World Trade Organization's head. So Norway likes to, because we are hardcore collectivists that have been in control over Norway, we love to, create these big globalist organizations. I went and actually listened to the former finance minister of Norway and the former Canadian finance minister at the same time. The Norwegian's guy name was, I believe it was Knut Wallebæk, and I believe it was Lloyd Axworthy. That was the Canadian one, but they were talking about all the great things that we're doing inside of the United Nations. And it was to celebrate the Norwegian 200-year anniversary. Well, they were talking about globalist issues, why they were celebrating something nationalistic as a country's constitution in Norway. Interesting.
Yeah, and they bring this guise or this veil of unity, and this isn't unity, folks. This is them playing us against each other while they get away with who knows what. We'll bring some of what that is right to you right now.
Yeah, well, it's an elitist gang that are running the show, and the United Nations, just to give you the organizational overview, and it's very interesting to look at how much they created. They have a global government ready to take over at any time. They just need, don't put a great crisis to waste, as a couple of politicians have said lately.
Yeah, and of course they've already implemented it to a large scale. We're already under a lot of UN rules and regulations.
100%. And I'll just run through them quickly. There's actually currently 17 agencies under the United Nations. There's the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization. There's the International Atomic Energy Agency. There's the International Civil Aviation Organization. There's the International Fund for Agricultural Development. There's the International Labor Organization. There's the International Maritime Organization, the International Monetary Fund, the International Telecom Union, United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, which is UNESCO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, World Tourism Organization, Universal Postal Union, World Bank Group, the World Food Program, the World Health Organization, the World Intellectual Property Organization, and the World Meteorological Organization.
So that's just cutting it short, because what they do with these programs is they create other programs
under agencies. Exactly.
They work in collaboration with groups like the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements. They work all together in collaboration with each other, and the whole idea is to take a hold of every last bit of what mankind needs. So from food to water to the taxation system, regulatory system, the monetary system, they go into things like air. We've seen the whole depopulation agenda, Agenda 21, and then going into Agenda 2030, which was just this year signed, and talking about the amount of depopulation we will see by the year 2030 and how they're going to control us, tax us on the air we breathe and the air we exhale, which is going to cost around $2,500 a year to each and every individual Canadian, which is being pushed forward by globalist Prime Minister Trudeau, and this is going to affect us all. We have gone into this before. The Bilderberg Group, which was seen as a conspiracy group, no, it doesn't exist in the 90s. Then later on, well, it does exist, but we don't really talk about anything about globalism. We just talk about Russia.
Like world government or world economies?
No.
Different members have said that.
There were always only two issues.
Yeah.
What is the best answer to current economic problems, and how do we deal with the Russians? That's all. It was never more sinister than that.
And then you actually look into the papers and the leaked documents, which we went into earlier this year, where they're talking openly and almost non-stop obsessively about creating a world monetary union, using things like the IMF, using the United Nations to push forward this control complex. And then you think your monetary system's bad on a national scale with the central banks printing money out of thin air, creating debt devaluation and inflation? Well, just imagine that completely on a global scale. It's already basically there, but imagine one currency creating all of this madness on a global scale times 1,000.
All the infrastructure is there. We laid out the special drawing rights plan where they're gonna, devalue all our local currencies up to the special drawing right. The thing is, though, the global currency, the special drawing right, they would never let you as a person be able to even hold that. It's actually only for the political elite, the government, the global government institutions, and the global corporations, the multinational. And going back into another thing, the TPP, the TTIP, and all these free trade organizations, it's just put there in order to enslave you, and actually for them to, the global organization, corporations to actually come in and then sue governments or local nationalist, organizations that actually weren't aware of it, and then they'll take your money because you have a law that they don't like, and that would hurt their profit, and they will come after you that way. Now, there's other ways too, like we've just been talking about the International Telecom Union that just took over ICANN, which is the one that give out all the domains and make sure your IP actually looks to the domain, like World Alternative Media or the Economic Truth that we have. And what they can do now, they have a control over that, so they could just limit and put in legislation to say, like, well, we don't want you to say this or that. And the UN has full control now over our internet, which is utterly insane. You give in like a globalist elite club of politicians to control because they want to control you. You've given them the control, and it's literally very, very dangerous. And I would say it's a dark age that we're going into.
It is, and I went into how the internet was being taken over back in the end of August, and lo and behold, at the same time, George Soros, as was leaked in the email leak from WikiLeaks, was that he indeed is trying to get the UN to regulate in favor of the Open Society Foundation. And the Open Society Foundation is basically funding both sides, trying to create chaos and divide, because the more we're divided, the more we're infighting, the more they have control of us. And they will be able to shut people down, censor, and there is no constitutional right any longer. I don't think anyone should have control over the internet, but at the very least there were constitutional rights involved beforehand. Now there aren't any constitutional rights. It's an international body created under
Charter of Human Rights,
under a subsidized organization that is now being pushed in favor of the Open Society Foundation. Now there are ways to get around this with .bit addresses. You have to get outside of the ordinary internet and have and put yourself on the alternate or alternative internet. However, that doesn't cover things like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all the powerful sites where you get your message out. Now we're going to get censored. And don't say I didn't tell you so. But leading from that, we have the Open Society Foundation, who, remember a while back ago, I was frothing at the mouth about the Panama Papers and how ridiculous the leak was? Well, here's the thing about that. Now we're kind of drifting into the whole taxation takeover at a global scale from the United Nations. And the Panama Papers was leaked by George Soros's Open Society Foundation, only picking out the pieces that show, well, Putin was hiding his taxes, because how dare anybody hide their hard-earned money from government theft and armed extortion? Now, what came out of that? Well, the UN immediately pushed forward their implementation of a global taxation system or union, which wants to keep track of every tax on the planet and make sure that every country is following international law. International law. No more sovereignty. Taxation is bad enough, but now it's a global government controlling the internet, taxation, and we're about to go on. Take it away, John.
Well, of course, they want to control every single aspect of your life. And I want to also mention I watched a great movie yesterday called Snowden, which is about Edward Snowden, that was an NSA whistleblower. Now, I looked at the movie and you just get goosebumps like looking into this, because they showed literally like their Facebook that they use to find keywords that you can say. So they could actually individually just find it super easy by censoring, looking at keywords and then seeing who actually says those keywords. And then they'll find all your connections, and then they start looking at those connections and they go after those connections again. And that's why we see like there's no stopping terrorism with this NSA stuff.
Especially when they're arming the terrorists and then using that to fearmonger us into being able to just, they'll just give up their rights. They're scared, so they don't mind being spied on, when 100 years ago there'd be torches at Capitol Hill for the same exact thing.
And the thing is, like, they have the FISA court and other things, these hidden courts, and also the TPP has that, where actually you can be prosecuted, but it's without any it's basically a global government. That's what it is. But NSA is tapped together with any other organization. They work with all the different organizations. Snowden said we were looking at Russia and China. Well, from perspective of a person that looking at threat, maybe they want to see what they were doing. But then on the other side, they were starting to implement these spyware into Austria and others. Now, what they've done with the NSA is they have global shutoffs on all the different utilities and important hubs for communication. They said they could just blow up things anytime they want. Now, this is another thing that they are doing on a global scale. I believe the NSA and all these potato soup agencies, they're all working together. But they don't want to tell everybody that they're working together. And of course, the upper layer, who's financing all these people? Well, it is the bankers, the banksters, like J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, and all the
globalist
all the,
central bankers.
Yeah, all the big globalist central bankers that the bankers control in the first place. Now, they just want to also indebt you, and then have you, as a slave to the global system. They would love to have this global central bank and then have a slave to the global central bank under one power. People like this, like the collectivists, what they ultimately end up doing, and this is not just today, it's every single time they have a government that they implement. You can look at the fall of the Roman Empire and how politics at the end, you had the bread and circuses. It was just, they were just giving everything to the people that they could because they wanted to stop the people from revolting against them. And what are we seeing right now? We're seeing the exact same thing unfolding. It's modern day breads and circuses where, they have their little sport franchises and like how they house up sport. So we are busy looking at and cheering for our favorite team, and then of course fighting each other. There's riots, there's people killing each other for a stupid game. But it keeps us busy from not thinking about it. And of course we got mainstream media, and I want you to go ahead and talk a little bit about how controlled media are working together with these organizations.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's Operation Mockingbird. There are all these CIA projects that push towards controlling the narrative of the media, including a controlled opposition. So we have CNN, MSNBC, the big behemoths of liberal but more just over-the-top collectivist propaganda from the state. Because and I'm not a fan of Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Sanders was even screwed over by the media because he wasn't the type of collectivism they were at that time trying to push. Now we've seen things going back to the 70s where they claimed they ended Operation Mockingbird, and there were speeches by congressmen and senators about it.
I thought that it was a matter of real concern that planted stories intended to serve a national purpose abroad came home and were circulated here and believed here, because this would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country. Now we're looking at that very carefully.
And then coming from people who are in the media to this day, there is still that kind of coercion within the media by the CIA, the State Department, and these nefarious governmental groups, where we see people like Luke Rudkowski, a hero of mine, confronting Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is having a bit of a bad time these days, thankfully, thanks to a leak showing that she tried to rig the election, which she successfully did. But Luke Rudkowski questioned her, was asking her all these things about drone striking innocent civilians using the National Defense Authorization Act. And then comes a mainstream media reporter who starts asking her about what some lesbian woman wore as a dress on Dancing with the Stars or something, and she was more interested in talking about that, and the people within the mainstream media are like going at it. Or other people that Luke Rudkowski has confronted, and you see the mainstream media, after he gives them hard-hitting questions, they ask him a question, and they're like, how do you think Hillary looked tonight at the debate? How do you think, what do you think it was like being on stage with Hillary Clinton?
Do you think, Grant, Hillary Clinton called you out on stage?
She really did. That was so nice of her.
What was Hillary's best line today?
Clinton's, how do you think that her personality showed tonight?
It's like, what kind of question is that? Where are you getting an answer? Now, I just wanted to give a little correction to something you said before. You said potato soup agencies. It's actually alphabet soup agencies, but potato soup makes more sense because they are a bunch of potatoes. And speaking of potatoes, Prime Minister Potato, or Little Potato as China calls Justin Trudeau, with all his nice hair and all that kind of BS and movie star appeal, he was recently speaking to a big globalist audience about how we have to stop resisting globalism, or globalization as he says it. Why we need to stop. These people that are speaking out about globalization are terrible. And that just brings me to mention people like Joe Biden saying that we need to give in to the New World Order. President Obama was talking about it. Hillary Clinton has talked about it. All their advisors have talked about it. Presidents and prime ministers alike have said it for years. And I just wanted to show you a few clips right now, just showing, as an example, hard evidence right there in front of you, all of these prime ministers and these presidents talking about creating a new world order.
Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge, a new era. What is at stake is more than one small country. It is a big idea, a new world order. Now we can see a new world coming into view, a world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
And after 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
But it is the awareness itself that will drive the change. And one of the ways it will drive the change is through global governance and global agreements.
Now, much has been said by the Secretary of State and others about a new world order, about a defining moment in history. I have no doubt about the potential of this moment to be defining in terms of history, but that definition can be negative as well as positive. And how negative or positive it will be will depend on what kind of new world order we really create.
With the end of the Cold War, Henry Kissinger pointed out in his superb book on diplomacy, he said, "None of the most important countries which must build a new world order have had any experience with the multi-state system that is emerging. Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion and the exploding technology of the contemporary period." That was written in 1994. And it may be even more relevant today.
And that Great Seal of the United States has on it, Novus Order Seclorum, a new order for the centuries, for the ages, forever.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
This present window of opportunity during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built will not be here for too long.
You believe deeply in your system, and we believe just as deeply in our system. It is not our common beliefs that have brought us together here, but our common interests and our common hopes. The interest that each of us has to maintain our independence and the security of our peoples, and the hope that each of us has to build a new world order.
Leaders come together and establish a framework for global governance.
And my great passion is building the big society, the big society.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order,
where we face new challenges. This is the world you are graduating into. This is what I want to talk about today with you for a few minutes. I believe we, and particularly you, your class, has an incredible window of opportunity to lead in shaping a new world order for the 21st century.
To get ahead, we've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance on these questions.
The transatlantic partnership was never just the foundation of our security. It was the foundation of our way of life. It was forged in experience of the most bitter and anguished kind. Out of it came a new Europe, a new world order, a new consensus as to how life should and could be lived. The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
I think this would be the time, because you really need to bring China into the creation of a new world order, financial world order.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
So there you go. I mean, we have all of these examples of them talking about it, but people still say we're conspiracy theorists. They've got the regulatory factor, the taxation factor, they got the food, the water, the air, they've got the environmental factor, they've got the weapons where they try to divide us and then they take away weapons and say, well, we're protecting you, you don't need to protect yourself. It's going on from every angle, arming terrorists, destroying countries, pissing people off, arming the people that are pissed off, and in some cases, rightly so. In other cases, extremely terrible people. And they're drugged up and on whatnot. And then they end up with all these CIA weapons, killing each other. And then they fearmonger taking away our rights in the fight against them, while they're actually just, like in 2013, saying we're going to arm the rebels, which became ISIS. I was saying, stop it. But they go, we're going to arm the rebels. And I said, they're going to be another Al-Qaeda. And sure enough, just like Al-Qaeda being armed in 1978 as a mujahideen, they became ISIS. And then instead of fighting against Assad with ISIS, now they're fighting with Assad against ISIS, and it's going back and forth when they're only attacking Assad, blaming Assad for it, while Assad says he doesn't want to take the US dollar. This is such a complex issue. Gaddafi was taken out because he wouldn't take that US dollar. Saddam Hussein was taken out because he wouldn't take that US dollar.
But he had weapons of mass destruction.
Oh yeah, those apparent weapons of mass destruction, which really only goes back to the weapons that the US armed them with in 1983, and then thought, oh yeah, they still have those weapons, even though, to be quite honest, I'm pretty sure Saddam used those on his own citizens. Yeah. And, thanks US. I think that he also used them on the citizens of Iran. Thanks US. Thanks for creating problem, reaction, solution, Hegelian dialectic for fucking 100 years.
Well, I think I want to come up with a new term for you guys. It's called in the UN's policies, trickle-down collectivism.
Yeah, and it's all different flavors, and they got us either way. Whether it's big collectivism or small collectivism, it's still a form of their control complex, which goes with their agenda into complete enslavement of us, the populace.
Well, it's just a leading control, either if they're working for corporations or if they're politicians. Now, I read a fantastic book called Confessions of Congressman X lately, and he just blatantly says that, public are completely stupid idiots. They don't know what they're doing at all. So, and we can take advantage of it. It's pretty lovely. We're getting all this money from lobbyists and everywhere, and it's fantastic. We're giving away the powers to global institutions. It's fantastic. We don't have to do anything. I make a whole bunch of money. I can sit there for 20, 30 years as a congressman, and then really do nothing productive to actually help the population, which is what a congressman should do. It just baffles me that we still believe in these politicians and let them get into our brains and tell us little stories and say stuff that they just are saying because they want to get in power. They're willing to say whatever they can to get in power. Don't think that Hillary Clinton or anybody else, like Donald Trump or anybody, well, maybe Donald Trump a little bit less, but all these politicians, they just say whatever it takes to get them into power, like Obama, all the stuff that he promised.
And it's not even getting them into power, it's getting their puppet masters in power who are way too unpopular to actually get elected themselves. And I mean, we should be looking at, for example, they use the entertainment industry, a huge one, to try and, because people pay more attention to entertainment, to movies, to Hollywood movies and music and whatever stuff like that, than they do to what's actually going on in the world, so they use that against us. So they got people like Leonardo DiCaprio. They got people
he's going to go to Mars now, I heard. Great. I look forward to it.
Please, don't come back. And, it's just, they're using these people to fool us. And because we're fans of their movies, for some reason people think that they know what they're talking about. They are in movies. They recite scripts. And now they're reciting different scripts for a higher power. And Leonardo DiCaprio says anyone that questions climate change shouldn't be allowed to run for office.
We must empower leaders who not only believe in climate change but are willing to do something about it. The scientific consensus is in, and the argument is now over. If you do not believe in climate change, you do not believe in facts or in science or empirical truths, and therefore, in my humble opinion, should not be allowed to hold public office.
Well, let's remember what science is. Science is theory that is built on being able to be proven wrong. The whole idea is questioning science. That's how science... That's how it advances. Yeah. But no, anyone that questions it, they're anti-science. They shouldn't be allowed to talk. Actually, that sounds way more anti-science to me. Thank you very much. Please leave. I don't want to listen to your bullshit. And we have these guys going to the United Nations, George Clooney and Leonardo DiCaprio. These guys are dimwits. Why is anyone listening to these people? Leonardo DiCaprio thought a freaking Chinook in Calgary was evidence of global warming. Meanwhile, this year there was a blizzard in freaking August over there. It's just absurd. And, they use this, and we need to stop trusting it. So stop trusting the United Nations, CFR, Trilateral Commission. Stop listening to the U.S. government, CIA, FBI. Stop listening to these, like you said, alphabet soup or potato soup, because they are a bunch of potatoes. Yeah. We have to stop listening to these disgusting organizations that their whole goal is to bring us, shake some keys in front of us like a baby. Look at this, while we're doing something over here, and distract them with this message of unity and, being able to bring us together, while they're the ones funding the initiatives to divide us and conquer us. And now they're bringing us into war with freaking Russia. I don't want to go to war with Russia. I don't believe in that. I'm pretty sure 99% of the populace of Canada and the United States does not want to enter into war with Russia. But that just shows how little we have a say in this whole cabal or this whole complex, is that they will literally send us off to war to die by, oh man, the millions if we go to war with Russia.
Well, we're in the massive depression globally, and how you can fix that is going to war. Actually, I listened to a PhD professor in economics here from the University of Manitoba. He said, back in the 30s, what ended the Great Depression was a war. Question mark. And isn't that insane that they believe that a war would be great? Of course, it's growth. That's all they look for, like these banksters and everybody.
From the sinking of the Lusitania in the 1910s to run into World War I or the Great War, and they push these false flag agendas in order to scare us into war and talk us into war, because their word alone isn't enough, and they know that, so they create destruction and divide in order to push us into these scenarios. And I mean, we do have hope, though, John. I mean, there is a lot of hope. And as I went into in my message to the globalists about a month and a half, 2 months ago, was that the fact is everything they do makes us stronger, in a sense, if we get it, if we understand what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And we have things like Brexit happening, which basically stomped on the New World Order. It might still be a form of national collectivism, but they tried everything in the book to make it seem like it was some form of racist initiative, when really in the end it was just sovereignty. They didn't want to become a part of a global power pushed by unelected bureaucrats in Brussels, and they're pushing the North American Union and Canada, the United States, and Mexico, which we went into before, and we've shown how stupid the populace is by asking them on the street. I did a report with Dan Dix, I did a report in Winnipeg as well, and just talking about, like, going up to people and asking them what they think, and the vast majority, especially millennials, are all for a New World Order, all for a North American Union, and they don't even know the first thing about it. But the problem with that is the more educated people out there know what's going on, and there will be a civil war the second they push that red button. There will be a civil war on their doorstep, and every single day more and more people become aware. Every single day their push towards complete global collectivism is working against them, because they're pushing more people into watching WHAM videos, into watching Press for Truth, We Are Change, Freedom Free for All. They are pushing more people into watching us and being educated by the real facts of what is currently going on, because they don't know what to do. They created the internet as a control complex to be able to watch us over like hawks, and it worked against them, because now the vast populace is being able to learn so much more from the internet when only 6% of people trust the mainstream media. And we end up with a whole bunch of people learning every single day, and that passes on like a web, because as the Freemasons say, weaving spiders come not here. Well, we are the weaving spiders, and we're growing every single day, and they can't control that any longer. Hillary Clinton calling out Alex Jones. Look how badly that worked against her. He has so many more followers now. Well, I mean, go ahead. I'm going on a rant. It's just, this is so insane. We need to pick up our feet and do something right now, because the internet's taken over. They are already censoring stuff. Our taxation system is being taken over, our regulatory system, and they think this unelected global government can control us, while these idiots in the mainstream media are still saying we're conspiracy theorists. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's just a word to try to discredit you. That's what they do. It's the stages of stopping you. If you come out with something, first they try to discredit you. Then they actually try to, get there on their team. They try to give you money and so on. And if that doesn't work, well, now they're going to start threatening you. And if threatening doesn't work, well, now they're going to come and kill you. We've seen this so many times with different whistleblowers. There's just been so many people that have gotten killed in the health industry and everywhere. Well, talking about the health industry too, there's another Codex Alimentarius and everything that they stop from preventing what comes into the body of people and our food. It's insane, like, what these guys are putting together. Like, they think that we are just slaves, that they could just do whatever, and they really deeply hate us as individual human beings. Yeah. They really think we're a disease because they want that full control, and they're willing to, as Prince Charles was saying, he wished to come back as a virus to kill off most of the world's population.
Oh yeah, that was Prince Philip. Yeah, he
Prince
wanted.
Philip, sorry.
And these people really do hate us. They want to depopulate us, and they come under the guise of peace and prosperity and unity and all these stupid buzzwords.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely absurd. Look at Hillary Clinton, what she did to that 12-year-old rape victim from that pedophile that raped her. Hillary Clinton defended him, laughed about it, and then after this 12-year-old girl was raped into a coma, then Hillary Clinton comes out and claims that she was asking for it. Does a 12-year-old girl ask to be raped into a coma, causing organ failure? I don't fucking think so. And this is the same woman that recently came out about Julian Assange with a leak that came out as well, saying that she wanted to drone bomb Assange. Another example of the National Defense Authorization Act pushed even further by Obama and the Patriot Act's continuation. And it just keeps elapsing and escalating. And as long as we just sit here simply getting angry, just like us, we're not even doing what we should. I really think that more people need to stand up, get together, and form groups against these globalist monsters. However you want to spin that, I don't care. We need to stand up right now because we are running out of time, folks.
Actually, talking about that, I want to pitch in a little bit of a pitch for myself and our great organization that both me and Josh is a member of, which is Freedom Force International. It's such a fantastic organization to work with individuals, and we're actually doing exactly what we're saying here. We're going and making groups around in the world where we're actually fighting these people head on. It's heads of big corporations, of other organizations, people that are high up in politics that are working with us in order to stop these crazy delusional elitists, because that's what they become. Over time they become very delusional, and it's almost like a mental illness where they just completely want to destroy society. They're just, it's interesting to see that. Like, I'm a person that, have a lot of love for humanity and everything, and it's just, I can't almost fathom how you can have so much hate. I can't even see it. I just get really baffled by how these people are willing to just destroy and completely make us slaves of the world and think we're disgusting, when I know the individual power that you have as a human being. You could create your own world. You as a human being could actually create everything that's possible on this earth. It's time to bring back individualism into the world.
And voluntarism,
and voluntarism, and actually let the individuals be free human beings, and think about what we could create together if we didn't have the secrecy of the government, controlling technologies and progress in the world. Think about all the stuff that we could do if we didn't have all these breaks that governments and UN policies are creating around the world. Think about how much we can prosper, how we can move, fly to the stars.
It's all out there. We have so much opportunity, but the monopolization of the government and the manipulation of the central bankers is what is holding us down currently in debt. We're stuck in dead-end jobs, making almost nothing as the price of living goes up. And the only way to break free from that is to abolish those things that I'm mentioning right now. We are able to create vast communities with massive amounts of competition among peaceful individuals, and we could do so much better competing currencies, free markets, and free industry. And what we see today is corporatism, not capitalism. It's a form of fascism, corporate fascism. And it's one of the big things that's holding us down now. Just imagine that on a global scale. It's already pretty much escalating to that point right now. And in a couple of years, I don't know what to say. It's going to continue to get worse as long as we're apathetic and we sit on our asses doing absolutely nothing about it. We have an opportunity, and we have a responsibility for ourselves and the rest of humanity to do something about it, to educate, to make sure people know what's going on, so that we can prosper in the future instead of continuously walking off to the slaughter like animals on a farm, walking right off a cliff because they're going that way. So why don't we, right? That's not the way it should work. We aren't groups or collectives. We are individuals, free, beautiful human beings that are born free, and the government takes that away from us, and we have to say to them, that is unacceptable.
Yeah, and I want to quote, before we finish here, I want to quote from the movie that I just saw, Snowden. What he said at the end, he said, I really hope that a lot more people are going to come out and do the same thing as me, because he said if they are not doing that, we're in for a new dark ages in the world, and it's time to stop that from happening. We need to prosper and celebrate life.
The answer is simple. The way about doing that is quite simple. The problem is the information isn't simple to get out. So we need your help to get that information out. We need you to help spread this crucial information in order to squash the New World Order, to step on it, to abolish this global order, this union that isn't created to unite as you'd think a union would. It is created only to divide, conquer, destroy, and enslave. And we can't accept that, folks. We have to shut them down. And that goes from basically top-down demolition. That goes for taking those globalists down to a national level, taking that national level down to a provincial or a state level, and bringing that down to municipal. Until we're at the individual, we can have a great society without chaos and divide. But we have to know our enemy, and our enemy comes in many shades and sizes, and we need to be able to see them, we need to be able to expose them, and we need to be able to speak for ourselves as free individuals. So thank you, John. This is a long report, but we could go on for hours longer. I'm sure there's so many more examples, but we want you to be able to not get completely bored by this and end up turning it off. So we will leave it there for now. We have a lot more videos on their way. We are constantly every day working to shut down the global order, and we would love you to join us. So thank you, John. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you, good people. Every individual donation means a lot to us, because we do this for free, and we need a helping hand up every now and then, because we just can't do it without you. It's a lot of work. So again, thanks for bringing us all those examples, John, and we'll be back at you with much more here at World Alternative Media. Don't forget to check the links, check the comments, and we'll be back with you soon. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.